let's move on to 5A, unfinished business, discuss and or approve the instructional support levy.
Just a refresher for everyone. We started talking about the instructional support levy during the last school year. We probably spent 3 or 4 different meetings at least referring to it. What we were asked to do is to look at bringing back to the board for consideration, running it, the instructional support program really is the correct term, in conjunction with the fall election on September, or for the board election on September 13th. And that's the materials that I've provided for you is the process. Everything with the instructional support program is it's a pretty tight timeline. It has to be done in certain time periods. And just as a refresher also for the public is that with the instructional support program, there's several options. One can be board approved for up to a 5-year period, and then another one is taken to the vote of the public up to a maximum of 10 years. Then you'll have decision to make on funding of the instructional support program. It can be property tax or a combination of property tax and income surtax. It's not an option to use only income surtax. You have to have a minimum of $1 of property tax. All of that is fine, and we're going to continue to try to bring more and more information, not just to the board, but to the public. The real decision that you have tonight is whether you wish to pursue the instructional support levy. And if you do, and going on what you've told us in the past, John and I, is to pursue that for up to a maximum of 10 years and run it with the election. So the materials that are provided to you do that. Because of timelines and the way the code reads, what I'm asking you to do is actually, again, stressing it's your decision, this is just me talking. If you want to pursue the instructional support levy for a 10-year period with voter approval, I would encourage you to pass 2 different resolutions. One that says we want to consider the property tax only, and a second resolution that says we want to consider the instructional support levy with property tax and income surtax. What that does then is force 2 public hearings on August 1st, but it gives you an opportunity to spend the next 2 weeks processing what it is you believe to be in the best interest of the district, as well as talking to the public for a couple of weeks between now and August 1st. You don't have to make that decision tonight. But that decision would have to come on August 1st. Okay? And that's truthfully, and I hope you like it, and if you don't, it's too late. No, it's not too late. We can change something. But we structured it that way specifically so that you have ample time to listen to people, talk to people, ask questions, answer questions, whatever it takes to make an informed decision as a board. So really what I'm asking for tonight then is what I'm recommending is passage of 2 resolutions, and the language is all in the packet. And we can certainly answer questions, and I'm not trying to ram this or railroad it or anything else, but I'm just trying to talk process that has to take place to do this legally.
What does $1 generate, or what will it generate roughly?
300,000.
How much?
300,000.
300,000. And that's the minimum. If we decide, if this would all go through and it would pass, then we'd say, okay, this year we're going to levy for it, or this next year, coming year, we'd levy for it. We get 300,000. If we decided that we didn't want to levy for it for whatever reason, either we didn't need the money or didn't want to make the taxpayers have the burden that year. That's something we could certainly do too, correctly? We'd have a vote and say...
Right. Annually, when we have our budget hearing and approve our budget, this will be part of that, and we can go in for it from 0% up to whatever we have approved at the election.
Okay.
And Brent, I could just add one thing. You asked a question about it, what would a dollar generate? You know, you can go up to 10% of what is it, John, what, 560,000?
Yeah, it'd be just over 500,000.
That's what we could generate as a maximum. And I would ask that the board consider asking for approval of the maximum with the caveat of what Brent just said, is you don't have to do that. You don't have to do this. You get a year-by-year decision.
And it's if we make that decision 1 year, that lasts the whole year, from July to
during the fiscal year.
Well, I've always been a supporter of having the instructional support levy based on several things. One is that we know that we're in a declining enrollment situation, and I don't see anything that's going to reverse that. And so if we continue to have the declining enrollment and generate fewer dollars in the general fund from the state, if we want to continue to maintain the kind of programs that we've been maintaining, we're going to have to come up with additional funds. And this is a place that I would think that you could get that. So for that reason alone, I think it's a good idea. But also, we've been operating for several years now on incentive monies for whole grade sharing and reorganization. If I'm not mistaken, in 3 years those are all going to evaporate, and then those one-time monies are gone, and we're going to have something to sustain us down the road. And that, coupled with the declining enrollment, I think is justification for having this program in place. I would be afraid to go forward without it. I don't want to be in a position where we don't do anything, and 5 or 6 years down the road, now we're in a financial bind, and people are saying, didn't you guys have any kind of a plan for this? Didn't you know this was coming? You conduct yourselves like the federal government.
Well, we do have some flexibility every year, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
so.
And the groups that I've spoken to, I've been very upfront that right now the amount of money that we have in reserve is exactly where it should be, and that there really isn't a need right now. And that was the decision that you as a board made earlier. What I'm asking is for consideration, and Chuck said it eloquently, is we're not really thinking about right now. We're thinking about a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. And I've used the term that it's somewhat as an insurance policy for maintenance of programs. Now, granted, if say enrollment really drops, you would, I mean, it's basic economics. If you have less money, you have to cut money. You either cut the expenses or you raise the revenue or do both. And as I've explained to the groups that I've spoken to, we certainly want to be good fiscal managers of the taxpayer money, and that means watching it closely and tightening the belt as necessary. But when you get to a point, the only way you really make back big money in a school budget is laying off people and cutting programs. That starts impacting kids. And what I guess I'm passionate about is making sure that we've set the table that that doesn't have to happen. I'm not saying that it will, but we have to be thinking out 2, 3, 4 years ahead. And I would encourage the board to say enrollment, we get a spike of enrollment, which I would not anticipate based on any piece of data I've seen. But if that were to happen and there wasn't a need to levy this, don't. We're not a bank, but all right, I'll shush.
I think our programs, I don't go out and look at the other schools, but I think our programs in this school are the best around here. And I'm really proud to be able to say that I'm, part of Sac County because of our programs. And I think it's very important for our kids for us to keep those. So I think this is an important thing too. And yeah, we may not have to use it, and we'll use our head, and if we don't have to use it, we won't. But I think it's good to have it there, just in case.
Kurt?
Hey, this is a question for John. How much money is the incentive program bringing in for a year right now? And I'm not looking for the exact dollar, of course.
Well, I haven't looked at it a long time, Chris. I think it's around 275,000, maybe 300,000.
How would the maximum levy compare to that in a year time?
The maximum levy we're looking at would be 550,000. If it was in place this year, our max was 550 roughly.
How long could we sustain the current programs and staff level with the maximum levy? How many years would until that would start to be a problem with the declining enrollment?
Well, it's hard to know the answer to that question because,
Well, let's say it stays at
See, you have a
at the
situation-
current rate that it's at.
well, you have the governor who's going to see to it that we get,
Zero.
no extra money this year.
Right.
And he's going to be very gracious and give us 2% next year. Well,
Not next year yet, though, just making sure that.
that's down the road a ways, and we asked for 4% and thought that was low. But we thought we could find a way to make it with that. But I just don't know where the money's going to come from if we don't put something in place to protect ourselves.
Let's say it stays at 0 or 2% for the next 10 years during the course of this levy, and you stay at the maximum levy, and the student enrollment keeps declining at the same rate. Are we good to go for 10 years, or is there going to be a problem 5-7 years out?
As Frank, you can help me, but as over the last 3 years, 2 of which we've had the incentive money for sharing, we've been able to operate a budget that grew our surpluses. So that's been a positive. Last year's audits aren't in, and we did not have incentive money last year. So I think you're going to see when the audits come through, I would expect us to see fairly flat, we'll call it a flat return. And so this incentive money should help us get through the next couple of years. I would like to be able to sit here and say, yeah, if we do this, we're good to go for 10 years. But I could be wrong.
And I think those are good questions. And the other thing is, if you're declining 2 to 5 students a year is different than if you're going down 20 to 30, and we'll have some spikes where our enrollment goes up based on our current enrollment, and other times that it goes down. And I don't remember the exact figures without looking it up, but when John was working on the aid and levy worksheet, we looked at what ultimately the extra money for consolidation was this year, and it really was a wash for the 22 students or whatever it is that we lost. So that was a break even for this year's budget. And so it's a difficult question to ask, and I think we have to be honest too. If for some reason enrollment drops out, we may have to look at eliminating some positions. I mean, that's wise fiscal management. We're not asking just for the moon. We understand it's a two-edged or two-sided coin, but what we really want is to make sure that that's a last resort, because we don't want to hurt kids in the process.
Does everyone agree that it's positions before programs, if it comes to that?
Pardon me?
Does everyone agree that it's positions before programs if it comes to that?
I think that'd be a situation by situation, probably instance. It's kind of hard to just say yes to that.
And the two are almost synonymous in a lot of cases.
Right.
I mean,
Get rid of a teacher, you gotta get rid of a program.
you got a position. I mean, the two go hand in hand.
Well, and in some cases, the way the law is now in Iowa, you can't cut the position necessarily. It's easier to cut the program than it is to cut the position. And hopefully we'll get some of that changed. But in this state, we have a problem, and I suppose they have a lot of this in other states, but we have a Department of Education, and then we have a legislature that acts like a Department of Education. And we're getting all kinds of mandates from both of those bodies that cost money, but there's no money that comes with them to run the programs. And they're going to expect more and more. Every day in the paper you can read about how we should, or how the Des Moines Register would improve the education program in the state, and how this person would. I mean, that's every Sunday and weekly. So all that is going to continue to come, and it's going to mean expenditure of more dollars to get the job done.
If you choose to go forward, these are the types of things we can talk more about at the public hearing. I mean, those are questions that we want to address.
Well-
The issue right in front of you tonight is
I would
to
ask,
pursue or not to pursue.
I would ask for a motion to pass resolution 1 and 2, or a motion singly to pass each one singly,
Yeah.
so that we can move forward with this issue. That's what we need if we're going to move forward.
Right.
I make the motion for resolution 1 separately. The resolution reads, pursue instructional support program and fund through a combination of property tax and income tax.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution to consider participating in the instructional support program through a combination of property tax and income surtax. We'll take a roll call vote. Lisa?
Yes.
Marty?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And I'll make a second motion
Okay.
for resolution 2 to pursue the ISP and fund only the property tax.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution to consider participation in the instructional support program funded through property tax. Marty?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And then as an outgrowth of that process is setting a public hearing, which has been scheduled, if it's okay. You should approve that, I guess. 6:00 p.m. on Monday, August 1st.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, you heard the motion and the second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries 5-0.
And that will
Have we
be
set a
here.
location for that?
Yes, at the high school library.
High school library.
Just have to get it publicized.
Yeah. And I should probably say that publicly, is that, I mean, just in the spirit of transparency, that was sent out, and I made sure you were all aware that it was sent out because of the publication deadlines needed to be to the printed newspapers by Thursday of last week. That notice was sent out, so it will appear in all 3 newspapers, as well as it's on Curtis's site. Understanding that had you decided not to pursue the instructional support levy, we would have rescinded that, obviously. But it's the reality of the timelines and when papers are published.